Good evening, my dear brothers. We decided before the last time around that in this meeting that we have to incorporate our formation class. And I reflected that it might be good for me to tackle three important things. The first one is all about love. The second one is about perspective. And the third one is about servant leadership. Now, to reiterate well, just this morning in the sharing of Brother Lloyd, it helps me to reflect and even ask question. Because in his opening statement, in his sharing, he said that, God is always knocking and knocking our door, our hearts. And it's very interesting because we might ask the question also, why? What is there in God that He's always knocking and knocking our door, our hearts? Maybe if we have to put this one into context, people who always there for us because He's concerned. That person is so special for us. Or better to say that that person loves us very much. And that is God. God is always been knocking and knocking our hearts because He loves us very much. And, I would like to reiterate also what Pope Emeritus, Pope Benedict said in one of his letters. He said that our faith is a human response to the God who loves us first. It's a human response to the God who loves us first. So the first one who knocked and knocked our door is God because He loves us. And now, because He loves us, our response now, our faith now, is to respond also to the God who loves us first. So, in knocking our door, in knocking our hearts, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to see God. It's an opportunity for us to put God in the center of our life. To love Him. But again, this is also something because sometimes our understanding about love is sometimes very questionable. Even I might ask myself also, how about you, Father? How about your love? Is that being purified according to the love of God? According to what Jesus has been given to us, has given witness to us? Is that the kind of love that you have? Now that is the question also. The question because my love might be, this love that I have, this might be tainted from my experience in life. This might be tainted in my family influence, from my friends. Now, if you have to look at in our world today, in this capitalistic world, this consumeristic world, it's easy to say that I want to eat ice cream. So, using the word love. Or I love these shoes. I love this house. I love this actor. Or I love this particular actress. But again, is that the one that we are referring to? Is that the one that God is giving a witness to all of us? This word love? Or something else? Because the Bible would say to us that the love of God is all about self-emptying. It's the kenosis. I would to put this into this particular word, the kenosis. The kenosis of God. That God is a King of kings, but He humbled Himself and took upon the slaves. Took upon the slaves. Again, it would be a glimpse for us of what is servant leadership is all about. But again, putting us into the question again of love. Now, the question here for all of us, what is my perspective about love? What is that word perspective? It's very interesting because for those architects, for example, Brother Long, is an architect. He has this experience. And before building up a building, a particular building, they have this perspective. And this perspective is to be put there in the blueprint. And that will be a guide to build up this particular building. So there's always a perspective. And you know, this is also something true for all of us. That the morality would say also that who am I now is a product of my perspective in the past. Now, I am the product of my blueprint in the past. So what is my concept about love? What is my notion about love at this very moment is always been coming from the influence of the past, of my past. And it's very interesting again. Now, I would like to talk about perspective. What is that perspective is all about? According to, again, to some people, that perspective and truth is that perspective can either make your problems look bigger or your possibilities look infinite. It can keep you warm and safe, or it can suffocate and separate you. And according to Marcel Proust, he said that the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands, but in seeing with new eyes. New eyes. The voyage discovery, that what we have now looking up is, again, we have to look at that one. If we want to make a difference, we have to look at this in a new perspective, in a new eyes. And it says here by Raphael Pino, perspective is the way we see things when we look at them from a certain distance, and it allows us to appreciate their value. Again, it's about perspective. And to give an image about this perspective, again, to give an image about what perspective is all about, is that when you receive a donut, for example, it depends upon our perspective. Because sometimes, for people who receive the donut, they would not look after the sweetness of the donut, or they would not look after the bread there. But people, based on the perspective, they look after the whole of the donut. So if that will be the case, that we are looking after not the sweetness of the donut, not the taste of the donut, but the whole, it seems that is our perspective is very questionable. When we talk of servant leadership, again, because that is based on our perspective, we might mislead. We might be in another way around. Again, this is something that if we have to look at that donut, if I focus on the whole, then I am very, very critical to my brothers. I'm very, very critical to other people. But if I have to look at that one based on my perspective, that not about the whole, but it's all about the sweetness, the taste of the donut. Now, this is the third thing that I would like to express today, to tackle, is about servant leadership. There are so many forms or styles of leadership. There are authoritarian form of leadership, leadership by example, and now we talk about servant leadership. It's very interesting because if you have to go back to the creation story, it says there that we are created in the image and likeness of God. But it's very dangerous if we have just to stop there in that particular line that we are created in the image and likeness of God. Why is it too dangerous? Because again, this is the tendency of having this authoritarian form of leadership. Yes, I am created in the image and likeness of God, so I have power. I have all the means. That's why we can say that authoritarian form of leadership is also seeking for possession, seeking for power. Because I am created in the image of God, if God is powerful, then I want to be powerful also. But if you have to continue this particular portion, this particular story, the second part of the story, is all about there that God created us in His image and likeness. That is true. But it's just there, God entrusted to us His creation. So we are steward. The other word of steward is servant. Servant. As we can say, we can remember the song, in onibus amare, in onibus servere, in everything love and serve the Lord. So, servant is all about service. And it's very interesting, service. Now, we might ask the question, what is my perspective of being a leader? I am a leader in my own little way, in my relationship to one another, in my relationship to this community. I am also a leader in some way, in my little way. Even if I am not a formator, even if I'm not a provincial or a general, but in my day-to-day life, I am showing my leadership. But what is that leadership is all about for me? What is my form of leadership that I portray to my brothers and sisters in the community, in this community particularly? It's very interesting to ask this question for all of us. And again, it goes back to my own perspective of what leadership, of what leader is all about. My dear brothers, it's very interesting also because if it is an invitation, if God is always knocking our door, because He knocks the door of us for us to be invited to a relationship. And that relationship is not all about I am in authority, I am in the possession, but it's a relationship about taking care, a stewardship, a servanthood. And that relationship is all about servant. I am a servant. But it's very interesting also because being a servant, we have example. We have a very good witness. And God Himself, I would say that He is a servant of the servants. Why I say this? Why God is a servant of the servants? Because, again, to be a servant is all about emptying of oneself. To be a servant of the servants is all about kenosis. God so loved the world that He gave His only Son to be a servant of all, to be our servant. Look at this particular image in the life of Jesus. In the Last Supper, we can say He is the servant of the servants. He washed the feet of the disciples. He washed the feet of the disciples, the dirty feet of the disciples. And the disciples or the apostles, they're all servants. But He took a form of a slaves to serve. He served the servants. And it's very interesting why He did this one. Because He wants the servants to be elevated, to give hope, to rise up through His being a servant. And this is the call for all of us. And it's very interesting because I would like first to highlight three aspects of being a servant. The first aspect there is that being a servant is a choice. It's not a force, but it's a choice. It's a free choice. It's a loving and freely extending, offering ourselves to those people who are in need, in this community. That is the first one. The second one, okay, the second thing there is that to be a servant doesn't exalt himself. Doesn't exalt himself. Because sometimes our perspective of being a servant, of being a leader, is we want to be recognized. But you know what is very interesting here? I remember that the theory, my own theory about reciprocity, about the third level of reciprocity, and the last level there, as I shared this many times already, that giving without expecting in return. And that is being a servant. Giving without expecting in return. It is very nice. And now again the question here, how about me? Being a servant leader in my day-to-day life. What is my perspective? Being a servant. Do I need to be recognized? Yes, I need this one. But do I have to force myself to be recognized, or something that it is my choice because I love and I have to offer myself even without expecting in return? Third one is all about obedience. It's very interesting because Jesus, when he was there praying, he felt the pain. The pain that was there praying in the garden, and he said, Lord, Father, take away this cup from me. But it's there, the obedience of Jesus, the beautiful prayer that, God, it's your will be done. It's your will be done. That being a servant, we are not seeking for our own will, but we are seeking the will of God. It means to say that being a servant leader, we have to be reflective. We have to discern that what I am doing now is not for my own will. It's not for my own service. It's not for my own, but it's for the will of God, to serving the others. It's very interesting, right? So now we can say that this is the image of Jesus being our example, be our witness of how to be a servant leader. In the Filipino dialect, it's all about punong tagapaglingkod o pinunong tagapaglingkod. Napakaganda po yung word na yung pinuno. The root word there is puno. It means to say being a servant, God is giving us all the graces that we need. We have all the means. Puno. But again, God is calling us that this grace that we have to use this one to participate in His mission. To participate in His mission. Because the mission that we have is not our mission. We are just participating in the mission of God. And this is now our questions. What is our questions here? First,